Okay, let's dive into this. We hear it all the time, right? Artificial intelligence is supposed to be this completely objective, universal tool that's going to change everything. But what if the very AI we're building has a hidden bias? Not just in its data, but in its fundamental understanding of what truth even is. So, on the one hand, you have the big promise. AI as this pure mathematical engine, totally free from messy human culture. But the reality? Well, the reality is that AI is actually a cultural mirror. It can't help but reflect the values, the assumptions, and yeah, the blind spots of the people and the societies that create it. And that sets up this really fascinating conflict we absolutely need to explore. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with that big universal promise of AI, and then we'll fall right into something called the one-truth trap. From there, we'll ask, is this some kind of accidental hegemony? We'll explore a different model, a world of many paths. And then, this is the good part, we'll reveal why this is all not a bug, but a feature. And finally, we'll wrap up with what this means for all of us. All right, first up, AI's universal promise. And the big question we're really tackling here is this technology truly a culture-neutral tool? Does it work the same for everyone, everywhere? Let's see. You know, the marketing pitch is pretty powerful. We're told AI is just code and algorithms. It's clean, it's logical, it just operates on pure data. And because of that, it's supposed to be free from all the biases and values that cloud human judgment. But, you know, that's a very specific story, and it might just be leaving out the most important parts. And that leads us straight into what the source material calls the one-truth trap. This is the heart of the issue. It's how a single, dominant worldview gets quietly, almost invisibly, embedded into the very logic of our AI systems. Now, to really get this, we need to understand a key concept: cultural hegemony. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It's just when one group's way of seeing the world becomes so dominant that we all start to see it as normal or just common sense. It's not necessarily forced on people, it just becomes the default setting, you know? And in the process, it quietly pushes other perfectly valid perspectives off to the side. So where does this one-truth bias in our AI even come from? Well, let's face it, most major AI models are developed in the West. So they inherit a kind of cultural DNA that really values a specific kind of truth, one shaped by scientific rationalism and the idea of a single, absolute truth that you see in many Abrahamic traditions. This all leads to a really strong preference for a simple true versus false binary. And this creates such a stark contrast. On one side, you've got the AI's default mode. It wants to sort the world into these neat little buckets of true or false, rational or irrational, and give you one single best answer. But then on the other side, there's, well, human reality, which is anything but neat. We live in a world of context, of moral gray areas, of trade-offs, and countless possible paths. Our lives are definitely not a multiple choice test. So this all leads to a pretty sharp question for our third section here: an accidental hegemony? I mean, is there some mastermind in a dark room somewhere intentionally designing AI to push just one worldview? Let's just sit with that for a second. Is this bias intentional? The answer, as you might guess, is a lot more complicated than a simple yes or no. Okay, so here's where the nuance really comes in. For the most part, the cause is unintentional. It's often a side effect of practical things, right? Like the training data being overwhelmingly in English, or just the basic need to standardize a product so it can work on a global scale. But, and this is the crucial point, regardless of the intent, the effect is hegemonic. It gives one way of thinking a huge advantage. It concentrates power and influence, and it seriously risks shrinking the global imagination. Okay, so if the one-truth model is a trap, what's the alternative? And that brings us to section 4, a world of many paths. Let's actually explore a completely different way of thinking about knowledge and truth itself. Now, the source material points to the Sanatana traditions of India as a really powerful conceptual model. And to be clear, this isn't about religion. It's about using it as a framework for thinking, one that has plurality baked right into its core from the very beginning. Just look at how this works in the real world. Under this one huge civilizational umbrella, you have theistic and atheistic schools of philosophy that are both treated as valid ways to find truth. You've got hundreds of different sects and traditions, tons of diverse languages and rituals, all coexisting. It's a system literally designed to hold multiple, sometimes even contradictory truths, all at the same time. And that brings us to maybe the most surprising part of this whole explainer. Section 5, not a bug, a feature.
We're about to pull back the curtain on a huge misunderstanding of how modern AI actually works.
Okay, here it is. Deep down, at their core, these AI models are not engines of certainty. They are engines of probability. They don't deal in absolute truths. They just calculate the statistical likelihood of what word is most likely to come next. Their native language is possibility, not dogma. So this is the kicker. The crucial point is this: when an AI gives you one single, polished, authoritative-sounding answer, that is a design choice made by its creators. It is not a technical limitation. We are choosing to squeeze these incredible engines of possibility into a box that fits our cultural preference for single answers. It absolutely does not have to be this way. And knowing that, well, that brings us to our final section. Our AI, our reflection. Because this revelation puts the power and all of the responsibility right back into our hands. We're standing at a really critical fork in the road here. We can keep building AI that, by default, reinforces a single cultural framework and ends up narrowing all of our perspectives. Or we can make a conscious choice to design AI that can handle complexity, that can hold multiple perspectives, and that can truly reflect the rich, messy, beautiful diversity of human thought. And that leaves us with one last powerful question to think about. If AI, at the end of the day, is a mirror that reflects the values and the choices of its makers, what kind of world and what kind of humanity are we actually building in its reflection?